I went into this curious place in UCLA, Center for Sarcoma Cancer, and the doctor looked me in the eye and he said, look, I know what your doctor said, which is forget about it, you only have a short time to live, forget about it, do whatever you want because nothing will work. And it was a very nice memo, and I shared it with the doctor, and he smiled and he said, put it aside. He said, I want to cut it out. You'll be back teaching in the fall. Then we'll find a way to work up the implications and the different kinds of treatment that might follow from it. So I said, go ahead. He said, it's an aggressive cancer, it's moving fast. So the initial measurement was 32 centimeters by 25. So sure enough, when they pulled it out, it was 34 and 20 centimeters. And it weighed 4.5 pounds. Well, why this is so important? So in terms of my cancer, so what's interesting is that I did a major study, as I mentioned last week, with a doctor in Seattle, Washington, and they wanted to know whether it's possible to understand why a certain number of patients continue to live beautiful lives having had cancer, but it's cancer in what they call remission, because they never want to say you're cured of it. So I said I'd go ahead and do the study. I went up to Seattle, Washington, worked with Dr. Warner, and they picked 12 people. And in every case, right, and by the way, these were all filmed, videotaped, filmed. And in every case, I found out that every person who was a long-term survivor of cancer found a way to use their cancer as a badge of distinction that allowed them to function in their milieu with a new dignity, authority, privilege, because after all, they might get it again for strange reasons and no one knows how they got it. So people have to walk around them and treat them with respect and dignity, because they might, and you know what that means, you're going to have to go through the hell of suffering with them and helping them and all of that. In every case, therefore, we found that the people were able to take their experience of cancer and find a very positive way in which they could become the major figures in their family, in the milieu, and play it to the hilt. Subtle, didn't make any difference, right? By the way, they told me if I ever published this, a whole battery of lawyers would come down upon not just me, but the funding agent that was behind this, and so it never reached the surface. So I then asked, you see, whether or not the inception of the disease of cancer in these 12 people had some interesting conditions. All right? I was not able to go very far with that, right? Because the study was to discover what it was that allowed them to survive for long periods of time, much longer than anyone else, from this one doctor, Dr. Werner, who, by the way, said no chemotherapy at all, no radiation at all. They were so furious with him that they brought him into the courts.
The AMA, right?
Pardon?
The AMA.
AMA, yeah.
Him, right?
And they deprived him of his license to practice medicine. And then they got together in order to find a way to deprive him of his right to use, in the end of his name, MD. They're so upset with him because he had so many cures and insights. So anyhow, it's with that background, you see, that I think, really, for me, I've never had so many interesting insights in my life. I'm enjoying the hell out of it.
So I never got it clear, what was the conclusion you and Dr. Werner came to that was so threatening to the AMA? What was your conclusion?
Well, he was not following the medical model of getting cancer patients to go through a set of tests which are rather cheap. No, they're expensive. And procedures long-term, etc. And denying their relevance.
But rather, what did you do to save these people
Well,
from?
he did rather curious things.
Now, what did you do?
And one thing was diet. He got people to get off of butchering animals.
Okay. Now, what did you do?
What am I doing?
What did you do with him?
Pardon me?
What did you do with him that was so successful in
What did I
saving
do?
these people from cancer?
Oh, I didn't save those people from cancer, if I understand your question.
Did you have some role? Did you do something with him?
I did something with them that so upset them that several of the people, within 5 minutes after the interview was over, came back to the director and threatened the disclosure of this information.